Hey, this is Ryan Richards. You can find me at ryanrichards.com. And today I am talking about strength and why strength is the most general and most important of all of the measurable fitness qualities. And then we're going to talk about some applications and how to acquire strength in your pursuit for fitness excellence. So first of all, what is strength? Strength is the productive application of force. Now, in the to try to keep things easy and not too, I want to try to keep the jargon to a minimum, but I do have to make things just slightly complicated for a minute. We need to define what force is. Force is mass times acceleration. So if your mass, your body weight, is 200 pounds, you have a mass and you're accelerating it, you're moving it through time and space, you're creating force. So everything from walking down the street to lifting weights in a gym to climbing up a set of stairs to standing up off the ground, you must apply, you're applying force in your external environment, our surroundings. That is what strength is. And the more force you can produce, the greater your strength is. So why is strength the most general of all fitness qualities? Meaning that if you improve your force production, if you improve your strength, generally speaking, it improves many, not all, but many of other measurable fitness qualities, such as endurance, for example. Muscular endurance is just repeated efforts of low levels of force over and over again. Walking down the street is low levels of force production repeated over and over again. Running a marathon, same thing. A 5K, climbing a mountain, it's low levels of force production repeated over and over again. And as you approach force at a high level, to where it's a one repetition maximum, where you're lifting a heavy load one time, everything is on that continuum down to low levels of force, such as walking a long distance. So it's the most general because if you improve your force production or your strength, it also improves your endurance, where endurance training actually hinders your strength. If you go out and you specifically train for endurance events, your force production will go down as an adaptation. The human body adapts that way. So here's a classic example to make my point. Let's say you have two lifters, two trainees, and we quantify their strength. And lifter A, he can lift 100 pounds one time. Okay, so we've quantified his ability to produce force. Lifter B can only lift 50 pounds one time. So we've quantified his strength. We can agree that lifter A is twice as strong as lifter B. So let's say now you have just a random example. Let's say that these two individuals are tasked with moving several hundred 50-pound boxes into a warehouse. And that's an endurance event. It's a repeated force effort over a period of time. So every time worker B, or lifter B in this case, lifts one of those boxes, he is operating at 100% of his maximum capacity. However, lifter A, he is only at 50% of his maximum effort. Every time he lifts a 50-pound box, he's operating at 50%. So of these two lifters, these two movers, these two warehouse workers, who's going to tire quickly or more quickly? This guy, because every time he lifts, he's at 100% of his capacity. So he's going to be more likely to injure himself because he's at 100% capacity every time he lifts a box, whereas lifter A still has a 50% reserve. He is going to be more efficient, he's going to endure longer, and he is going to be more robust throughout the day. His posture is going to maintain, where this guy's more likely to keel over. So why is all of this so important? It's important because I would say this is anecdotal, but as a fitness professional for 16 years, my observation is most people come to the gym and they don't strength train. They don't necessarily and specifically pursue activities in the gym that will improve force production. Okay, this guy right here. They won't. Most people do endurance training, or they lift weights, but they're lifting for too high of repetitions that don't elicit the right adaptation to improve force. So if you're training with weights, generally speaking, and you're performing more than 5 repetitions, it's something, but it's not strength training. It might be bodybuilding, it might be muscular endurance training, but it's not strength training. So to improve your strength, before we get there, why is this so important? Because as you've just seen in this detail, everything up to a point, most other fitness qualities, including endurance, power, speed, how quickly you can move through your environment, is dependent on force. It is the common denominator with endurance training, power training, speed training. And how we interplay with our external natural environment is dependent upon force. And strength training is much more useful in general. Most people can put one foot in front of the other and walk and do general basic activities of daily living with no problems. But you increase strength, those things get easier. It's also, strength training has scientifically proven to improve bone mineral density, and under the confines of improving your strength, you also increase the tendon strength, your ligament strength, and your muscles actually change. They morph into a different animal altogether when you strength train. It's kind of synonymous with building a house. Building a house takes planning. It takes an architect. It takes a team of, you got to have a general contractor. You have to have different subcontractors. You've got to test the soil. You have to build a foundation. You have to frame the house, wire the house, plumb the house, put up drywall, paint it, etc. And it takes many, many, many months, if not years, to build a house. Well, strength training is the same thing. It takes years to acquire a high level of strength, and it takes dedication and a lot of work to build that house and for those muscles to change. Now, endurance training, on the other hand, and again, by the way, I love endurance training. I'm a former endurance athlete. I've done races before, so I'm not knocking on endurance training. It's important to have endurance, but you can get into peak running condition for a marathon in 8 weeks. You can go from the couch, unless you have injuries or you're obese. An average adult who's generally healthy can get into peak running shape for a marathon in 8 to 12 weeks at most. The adaptations that occur when you specifically train for endurance events are very fleeting. It's mostly an increase in red blood cell count that carries oxygen. You can gain endurance very quickly, and if you take a layoff, you can lose it very quickly too. Strength training, on the other hand, once you've acquired a reasonable level of force production, and you take, let's say, 6 months to a year off, you do not lose. There's not as great of an impact on your force because your muscles and your bones and your connective tissue have actually changed during that process. The other thing that's so important about specific strength training when you're using 5 repetitions or lower, it has less of an impact on your overall body weight. You can gain strength without gaining muscle size. Muscle size increases are usually a combination of heavy weights performed for moderate repetition ranges, 5 to 10 repetitions, where you're actually putting the muscle under tension long enough to cause enough damage to it to prompt it for growth, and a surplus of caloric intake. You have to eat more food than you're expending during the day, and you have to lift with moderately heavy loads for moderate repetitions. So the other thing that's so great about strength training, my point is you can get stronger with heavy loads that are 5 repetitions or fewer, and it doesn't have an overall impact on your frame and your body weight. It's more practical and more useful to use heavy weights performed correctly. Best way to do it is the use of barbells. Reason is you can progressively overload your body incrementally in 5-pound increments up to infinity, up to, a couple thousand pounds on a barbell. Where kettlebells, for example, as much as I love them and people call them strength training tools, they're really not. They're strength endurance tools. The truth of the matter is they just don't get that heavy. They go up to, I think there are companies that are getting fancy and making them a couple of 100 pounds now, but generally speaking, kettlebells range from, 5 to 8 pounds up to just over 100 pounds. They're not heavy enough to cause an adaptation for strength in your body. Barbells are probably ideal for this because you can load them so heavy. Your body weight, sure, you can get stronger, but it's limited. If you're a 180-pound male, you're a 180-pound male. You can't progressively overload your body by doing push-ups. It's the most efficient way is to use barbells. So, strength, the most general of all fitness qualities and the most important to acquire. So get in the gym. The technique and exactly how to perform barbell lifts is beyond the scope of this discussion today, but I hope you found this information useful. If you like this channel and you like this message, subscribe and make some comments. Hey, thanks for checking in today. We'll talk next time.